Banks and the financial system are back in the headlines, and not for the right reasons, raising a question: how worried should we be getting? Here's your 5-point guide to this roller coaster. Perhaps the best place to start is with interest rates. You've probably noticed they're going up as central banks try to bear down on inflation, which is also going up. And whenever interest rates rise, it tends to cause consequences, sometimes chain reactions, sometimes malfunctions that run through the entire financial system. That brings us to Silicon Valley Bank. Now, Silicon Valley Bank was, like the past tense there, a slightly odd bank. It didn't deal with normal customers like you or me, but with tech firms. These founders, they got lots of money in from venture capital firms, and they put it into their accounts at Silicon Valley Bank. And then the bank needed to work out where to put that money, and in their case, they put it mostly into a type of bond which turned out to go down in value when interest rates went up. You see the connection there. The second issue was that all of those depositors, they had so much money in their accounts, and only so much of that is protected, $250,000 in the US, £85,000 in the UK, that they realised if there was a problem at the bank, and they thought there was going to be a problem, they needed to get that money out fast, and that began a bank run. Now, bank runs never end well, and that was certainly the case for Silicon Valley Bank. The UK arm was sold off to HSBC for the princely sum of £1. The American arm, it's slightly more complicated. The federal authorities stepped in and said, we are going to ensure that all depositors can have all of their deposits insured. In other words, you're not going to lose anything over $250,000. That was effectively bailing out a lot of wealthy investors, but it wasn't quite like the bailouts that we saw in 2008. And the other issue was it raised all sorts of questions about other banks. How about small banks in Midwest America? Are they going to be protected as well? No one knew, and so people started gradually to take money out of those smaller banks and put it into the big ones, causing problems throughout America. So that's Silicon Valley Bank, and it's worth just saying there were other banks in America which got into trouble at the same time. And following all of that, people were looking around, working out who the next one to fall might be. Which was the weakest bank, one with a history of trouble? Turned out that was Swiss bank Credit Suisse. That got into trouble, saw its share price fall enormously, and was taken over in a shotgun wedding by UBS. But here's the thing, this rescue, forced takeover, whatever you want to call it, had a few issues as well, because the way it worked was that certain people who owned bonds, a particular type of bond in Credit Suisse, were wiped out overnight, and they thought they shouldn't have. And so now you have a lot of people holding these same types of bonds across the banking cosmos for all over the world, wondering to themselves, hang on, are these actually worth any money? You see the issue is, as with Silicon Valley Bank, the nature of the rescue has raised just as many questions as it has provided answers. Having said all of that, does it feel like we're facing 2008, another big financial crisis all over again? Doesn't feel quite like it to me. Famous last words, but the system isn't as rotten as it was back then. What certainly has happened is people have been reminded that however big the bank, wherever it is, if everyone takes their money out at once, you've got a big problem.